देखना पड़ेगा लगता
This technical stuff. So, just to kind of repeat for the sake of the recording, the Gyani, so you could be a Gyani right now, right? You could get that inspiration at this moment and say, all these things I've heard about me being Atma and not a body, not being the mind, not being the Sukshma Sharir, not being the Sthula Sharir. You could be convinced about it, and for you, samsar will drop. You will be liberated. You are moksha. You'll know that this samsar exists, but you are convinced that this samsar is just mithya. Its stature is mithya. It exists, but only as mithya. What really exists is me. And that me is satyam, that me is Atma, that me is the only thing that exists, which is the basis of the samsara even. It's the adhisthana of the samsara. Once you have this conviction, you're a Gyani. For that Gyani, this whole samsara, the process of born, birth, rebirth, all that is over. It is of no concern. In fact, it may happen again, it may not happen. The Gyani couldn't care because that's not what his mind is engaged in. His mind is engaged in himself, in God, in Paramatma. So that for that person, there is no gati. For that person, there is no travel after death. Right? That's the whole thing. We say, right now, that's the whole teaching of Vedanta. Right now, here and now, not you will be free. You are free. It's just that you don't know it. That's all. Your mind doesn't know it. Or what to say you don't know it is also wrong. The mind doesn't know it. You think you're the mind. That's why you don't know it. Actually, you know it. Only thing you have to do is to break this artificial association that you have with the mind. Then you know it. Then the mind will continue maybe to know it or not know it. Doesn't matter. You know it. That's just another way of looking at it. So that's the liberated guy. That's the Gyani. Now, what chapter 8 is talking about is the journey of the Agyani, the non-Gyani. Now, what does the non-Gyani have to do to become a Gyani? In reality, to become a Gyani, what you need is Gyan. That's all you need. You need knowledge. What knowledge? The knowledge that I am not this mind, I'm not this body. The knowledge that there is something called Brahman, Satyam. That is what really exists, and I am that. That's the knowledge you need. The problem is that this knowledge is not something which can be, learned like you learn physics or you learn cooking or you learn, anything else. It can't be learned like this because this is not just by when we say knowledge, we are not only meaning the brain to understand. We are meaning you as a complete entity, as a whole thing to understand. It has to become your way of life, not just your knowledge somewhere in the brain. So, what do you need for that to happen? What you need for that is to remove the obstructions which are obstructing you from this knowledge. What is the obstruction that's obstructing you from that knowledge? The obstruction is your conviction that you are something else already. If you're convinced that I am something else, and I'm telling you no, Vedanta is telling you no, you're actually Brahman. There is a tension. Because, okay, Vedanta is saying Brahman, I like Vedanta, I would like me to be Brahman. Okay, I can understand. But my heart, my body, my mind, everything, my entire orientation says, no, I am this limited entity. This mind, this body, who's got these ideas, this ego, what we call ego, that's what I am. That's the obstruction. Because you can't be both. You can't be this and that. So for you to understand that you are that, the Satyam, you have to loosen the bond with what you think you are right now. It's actually called the knot of the heart, Hridaya Granth, Hridaya Granthi. Like it's the has to be loosened. You have to kind of overcome this. And you overcome this through two things that Vedanta says. Not the technique, but the milestones. One is, it's called Antakarna Shuddhi, and the other is Antakarna Naishchalya. So Antakarna Shuddhi means, what is, actually speaking, what is it that's making us so convinced that we are this ego, this separate self? If you really start digging into it, like, why am I so convinced that I am this body, and that my whole life is about making this body better, or making this body more complete, or giving more capability to the body, leaving a legacy for this body, right? It's because of our raga dveshas. Raga dveshas means our desires, our likes and dislikes, our tendencies. These things have always been there. Vedanta calls these impurities. And removal of these things is called antakarna shuddhi. Shuddhi means the removal of impurity. So the impurity is these tendencies which we have this in our mind. We have these little complexes, these little feelings of inadequacy, little feelings of incapability, of smallness, which we have had this from like ages, ever since we were born, or even from previous lives. They are now hidden deep inside. We don't even, on a day-to-day basis, we don't see them, but they are there, and they are controlling everything in our life. We don't even see how our actions and behavior are controlled by these convictions, little convictions of inadequacy, that we are not complete in some way, that we need to achieve something, we need to do something in order to bring meaning to our life, in order to make good of this life, right? So this whole complex, this whole system is there, and it's a very strong foundation, strong system. It's not something which can just go away just like that. For that, you have to keep working on your ego. You have to keep working through knowledge and through your actions. Like, let me give you an example. Let's say that Vedanta says you don't need anything to be happy, right? But I'm not convinced. I think I need my Tesla to be happy, and I need a big house, and I need a certain amount of bank balance, whatever. There may be a whole bunch of things I think I need. I can start small. I can start by looking at some things which I thought I need to be happy, but what if I don't get them? Can I still be happy? Through this little process, starting slowly in small steps, I have to begin to see the truth of the statement that I just need myself to be happy. And slowly, it's like a little fire which burns into a conflagration. But in the beginning, you have to start slowly. But that conviction has to start coming in gradually. That yes, indeed, there is some truth in what Vedanta says. I really do not need. You have to look at your experiences and see, when have you been happiest? Is there a real correlation between your wealth and your happiness? You have to pay, and then you have to do those things, follow through on that conviction. So this combination of knowledge and combination of action is what will take you from your state where you have no antakarna shuddhi or little antakarna shuddhi to higher antakarna shuddhi. This process is called Karam Yoga. This process of going from a state where you're driven by these unconscious desires and habits and little addictions, insecurities, from that to a place where you are driven not by that, but you're driven by your knowledge. You're driven by what your brain tells you or your knowledge tells you is actually true, what is actually right. So that's kind of called control over your mind. So whatever you need to do to get from this place to that place, that's the process. The whole thing together, Gita has called Karam Yoga. So it could be thinking, it could be actions, whatever. But this is the activity that has to happen. Because if this doesn't happen, then your knowledge will be only, on paper. Because why it's on paper? Because you will continue to be convinced. Your behaviorally and emotionally, you will continue to be convinced that you are this little being who needs all these things around him. So once that bond is loosened, then the knowledge that you are actually Brahman, that there is something called Brahman, the obstructions are gone. Then you can start focusing on Brahman without being distracted by ego. So that's the process of gaining Gyan. But what happens is, somebody may have reached a lot of Antakarna Shuddhi, may have done a lot of this work in life, but may not yet have got complete Gyan. That is the person who goes to Brahmalok, supposedly, right? And gets the Gyan from Brahmaji. And may not have mukti here in this life right now, but will have mukti in the next life. And the beauty is that before mukti, he will also, or he or she will also enjoy Brahmalok. So we'll have all the siddhis of Brahmalok, all the pleasures of Brahmalok. So
that sounds like a better
that's
state.
Brahmamukti. Huh?
That sounds like a better state. It sounds like Agyanis have it better than the Gyanis.
You mean the ones who go to Brahmalok have it better?
Yeah.
That's
Gyani,
because
sounds like a build up and then a disappointment.
no, I think it sounds like it sounds very attractive to you because for you, Brahmalok is very attractive. Right? That's what you mean. You're saying that sounds like a better state than a Gyani who gets bhukti right now. So let's say, I understand what you're saying.
Then, yeah.
Right? So there is a Jivan Mukti, which is you got Mukti right now. There is Krama Mukti, where you get Mukti in Brahmalok. And there is no Mukti, in which you just return back to this earth or, continue your journey. Correct? What you're saying is, number one, in terms of attraction to you, is the Krama Mukti, where you go to Brahmalok. Number two, maybe you come back to the earth. Number three, maybe Jivan Mukti.
And number four would be the path taken by the Gyani.
Gyani doesn't take any path. That's Jivan Mukti. The Gyani is...
But that's the most disappointing.
That's what I'm saying. So what I call number three is actually what you're referring to number four. There are only three things. Either you come back, either you travel and come back, or you travel to a nice place and then get liberated from there, or you get liberated right now. There are only three things.
But the liberated right now, where does that happen?
Right now. You're already there. There's no travel. Right now. Here, in this world. You don't travel then after that. So this is something...
But then you also, the only way, the way, I'm obviously highly oversimplifying it, but I think that state of Gyani seems to be, or at least one interpretation that I'm able to see is that it seems to be that you have realized that there is no pleasure, there is no pain. There is, just is. Is that
what you've realized is your past pleasure and pain. This is not about pleasure and pain the way that you see it.
Right. Yeah.
This is about feeling complete.
Yeah.
This pleasure, the completeness. And what you've realized is that you're complete right now.
Yeah.
See, the reason that we are seeking pleasure is to seek completeness. What we're actually seeking is completeness.
That's what I'm saying, because we are all approaching this with a measuring instrument, built-in measuring instrument that measures pleasure and pain.
Right.
So when suddenly this pleasure pain thing vanishes, in other words, we don't have a way to judge. Am I feeling good? Am I feeling bad? There is no good. There's no bad.
That's not the way. I think we are approaching this from a measuring instrument of pleasure and pain because that's all we know.
Yeah.
We don't know what is behind the pleasure and pain. Right? What this knowledge is telling you is that the real reason you're seeking pleasure is because you feel incomplete. If you knew that you are complete, you will not seek that pleasure.
That's
That
also
pleasure
true.
is there in you already. It's not something that you have to give up pleasure.
Yeah. I agree with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's what this is saying. And you have to realize, you have to figure out for yourself whether this is right or not. Whether this is the actual truth or not is for you to figure out.
Yeah.
But that's the teaching. And this is like Swamiji, I wanted to tell you. Swamiji used to say that when Swami Dayanand, he used to say that when students were learning with him, he used to tell them that, when you achieve moksha, you're not coming back, you're gone, you're done. And then he used to say, if I ask you, do you want moksha right now? They'll say, no, tomorrow. I want moksha, but not right now, tomorrow. Because I want to come back to this world. Because I
That's my
cannot
point.
conceive of a situation where if I'm not back in the world, I don't exist. So that is a clear indication of lack of knowledge. Because this knowledge is not about no, this is a knowledge of not this world. This is a knowledge of Brahman. Because we don't have any awareness of Brahman, we don't know what that means. We don't know what our true self is, what our true self means. We feel that we are giving up something by giving up this world.
In a
So
way, we are, right? We are trading what we know, good and bad, for something that we don't know yet.
well, right now that's how it feels to you, because you're trading. But forget about. I'm saying don't give up anything. Just keep everything. Keep this world also. Know and understand Brahman. This is like a child, right? A child wants a balloon. And when a child, and this is an example which is often used in Vedanta, when a child wants a balloon, the balloon is the whole world for the child. And if the balloon bursts, the child feels pain. And the pain that the child feels is probably as much as the pain that I would feel if I lose someone dear. Because for the child, his entire everything is in that balloon. He or she feels that, like, we can't understand it. We have to be children again to understand that. It's not that their pain is any less than the pain of losing someone dear or losing something what we think is valuable. It's the same thing. It's just a matter of maturity. And for a Gyani, like you can imagine a Gyani's chatting. He says, oh, those ignorant people, they lost somebody dear and they're feeling the pain. Don't minimize that pain. That's a lot of pain. They don't realize that it's just like losing a balloon. There's nothing. You haven't really lost anything. Because if you think about yourself as a body and think of the other as a body, and you think with the disappearance of the body, existence is gone, then obviously you will feel the pain. See, the first teaching, and this is another thing about Gita I actually wanted to tell you today. Gita and actually the whole scriptures, when they start teaching, they start with the deepest meaning. They start exactly with the central point of what they have to tell you. And then as they go along, they keep going round and bigger circles. Because some people will get that. Most people won't. Most people need more, so then they make a bigger circle. Then they need more, then they'll make a bigger circle. And this is exactly what happens in the Gita also. If you look at chapters 16 and 17 of the Gita, they are meant more for children. They talk about ethics, good and the bad, all those kinds of things. Chapter 2 talks about Atma. The first verse of chapter 2, where the Gita teaching starts, it's called the verse 11, right? That verse, Krishna Bhagwan is telling Arjun, why are you grieving? There is no need for grieving. Wise people don't grieve. If you think about it, the whole reason why Gita exists is that. Why is it that you want to learn Vedant? Why is it that I want to learn Vedant? what is driving me towards this teaching? It's because we are tired of this ignorance and we are tired of the grief. We want to overcome grief and we want to overcome ignorance. And Krishna Bhagavan starts by this. In fact, I can, tell you the shlok. It's kind of, something to remember. He says, Ashocyan anvasochastvam. Ashocyan means something for which there should be no grief, which doesn't deserve grief. Shochya means something which calls for grief. Ashocya means something which doesn't call for grief, and Ashocyan is just a declination, makes it an object. So Ashocyan anvasochastvam, meaning you have been grieving for that for which does not call for grief. But then he says, Pragya Vadanscha Bhashase. But you're talking big words. Because, Arjun before that had started telling him how he doesn't want to fight. He doesn't want to fight because by fighting, I will kill people. What's the point of killing all these big luminaries like Bhisham Pitama and Dronacharya? When I kill these big guys, who will take care of the women? If the women don't have sustenance, adharma will prevail. So he was giving all kinds of reasons for why fighting is bad, why killing is bad, why war is bad, which are very, most of us feel like that. So, he was talking like a wise man. So Krishna Bhagavan was telling him, you're grieving for that, where there should not be grief. Yet you're talking as if you're a wise man. And then he said, Gata suna sunascha nanu shochanti panditaha. So gata soon and agata soon. That means for those who are living, that means who are walking, gata soon, who have gati right now, the living beings, and the agata soon, those which are not living. Nanu shochanti panditaha. The panditaha, the wise men, do not grieve. They do not grieve for those who are living. They do not grieve for those who are dead or non-living. There is no reason for grief. Now, I'll tell you, when I kind of mentioned this to a good friend of mine, who incidentally is no more. But, she's she is a philosopher in her own right. And when I said this, the reaction was like, I did not anticipate it. She said, what is this nonsense? How can a scripture say that you should not grieve? Actually, you should grieve. You should be open to grief. If you don't grieve, you cannot live. You will become an automaton. You will become a robot, right? Not in touch with your feelings, not in touch with your senses. And you can see that to a person who doesn't understand, when something like this is said, they can be completely, they will misunderstand completely. That is why, Krishna Bhagavan continues and has 600 more verses to explain this. Why you don't need to grieve. Not because you're not in touch with your feelings, not because you're, sort of quelching your feelings or throwing stuff under the carpet. Not because he wants to make you a psycho case. No. You should not grieve because you should have the knowledge to understand why you're grieving in the first place. What made you grieve? And is that knowledge in touch with reality? What is the reality? Are people dying? Then the next things after this he said was, he explained, he said, all these kings who are standing there, me, you, all of us, we were never born, we will never die. Right? So that's what he said next. We don't die. And then he said, wind cannot touch us, a sword cannot cut us, water cannot wet us, so fire cannot burn us. So he was just then he went to the next level to try and say, we are Atma. What you think dies is just the physical body. Then he said, right away after that, he said, this physical body is like a dress that you wear. You change, just like you change your dress and change your clothes, this physical body also you change. That's all there is. So then he gave an example. He said, most people, when you change your dress, you don't start grieving. You just change your dress. There is no reason for you to start grieving because you're changing your physical body. Again, so this is a little bit more explanation, but not enough. Not enough for us. So he goes more and more and more. And, like more and more detail, more and more context, more and more explanation. And he covers this in 700 verses, or 660 verses, because the first 45 verses are just setting the context for the Gita. Really, the Gita starts chapter 2, verse 11. And for many of us, even this is not enough. We will have to go through this again and again and again and again. And God knows how many times, and even then, it will take us many lifetimes to truly understand that there is no cause for grief. But when we understand that there is no cause for grief, not because we are forcing ourselves, but because we truly understand it, that there is, if we don't come back to this world, for example, we are not losing anything. When we understand it, that's what's called a Gyani. Correct? Not someone who's read the Gita, not me who's read the Gita and who's also now learning Sanskrit. So I can recite it in Sanskrit too. So that doesn't make me a Gyani. Okay. But yes, so that's kind of the whole idea. Now, back to chapter 8, we were saying that if, for example, Krishna Bhagavan gave you this Gita lecture and you got it, and you immediately realized there is no cause for grief. Nothing happens to me, nothing happens to anybody. What I really am is Atma. I was never born, I will never die. This is the body which is just like a dress which I change. I get it. I'm Jivan Mukt right here and now. Whether I come back or not, actually, even to say that I won't come back is not correct, because I am Ishwar. Whether I come back or not depends on whether I want to come back or not. It depends on my vasana. I can come back, I can go, I can do anything I want.
But
So,
just a question. If you decide to come back, do you have the knowledge that you're already achieving the other clothes?
it's not. So the question is, when you say, I decide to come back, are you referring to your mind? Then you don't have the knowledge, right? Because that mind is not going to suddenly have complete knowledge of how to come back to this world, right? What I'm saying is, what you realize is that what you are really is Ishwar. This is now, I'm going even deeper. If you are Ishwar, then all this that is happening is not happening because of a power or an entity which is separate from you. See, this feeling that this world is happening to us is the ignorant feeling. Somewhere, the experiences that we are getting are actually created by us. It's like a dream, in a parallel way. In a dream too, you feel like a lot of things are happening to you. But all those things that are happening to you are created by you. You have chosen to be ignorant, this human being in a dream, an ignorant being who feels that everything is happening. If in a dream, let's say you meet with an accident, a bus comes and knocks you over. The dream you doesn't see the bus coming. It just gets hit by the bus. So to the dream you, that bus is an outside force which came and hit you. But remember, this entire dream is happening in your mind. It is your mind that created that bus which came and hit you in the dream. It is your mind that decided that I am going to make the dream Paula ignorant of the surroundings in the dream so that dream Paula can have a particular experience. And that particular experience is being hit by a bus, right? If you want to have the experience of being hit by a bus, you have to make the dream Paula ignorant, not aware of the bus, and the bus has come to hit dream Paula. Then only the dream Paula can have the feeling of being hit by a bus. But there is no third party. I didn't create the bus in your dreams, nor did Atul. The only thing that created that whole dream, including the bus, is you. So this kind of an understanding is where you need to get to with Vedanta. What is it that's creating all these experiences that you're seeing around you? So, I mean, I don't want to go deeper than that right now. I just want to leave that with you right now, because these are things that you have to think about yourself and you have to come to your own, conclusions. But I forget where was I? What we were talking about. We're talking about chapter 8.
Chapter 8, it is.
Yes. So we were saying that, yes, so if you can have Jivan Mukti right now, or you can have, you could be very capable, you could have a very sound mind, but not have the knowledge right now. And then you go to Brahmaloka. And so that's how it's described in Vedanta. That's called Krama Mukti. And they even describe the process of what death actually means, what really happens, what are the mechanics of the subtle body contracting onto itself and then leaving this body and going to the next body. So this is described in a very broad nutshell in the Gita, but in much more detail, it's described in some of the Upanishads. And the Gita has also basically borrowed from the Upanishads. In fact, some of the shlokas are literally word to word from Katha Upanishad. And Bhagavan himself says, Bhagavan Krishna says that those Upanishads are also written by me. That whole Veda is written by me. So he's fully qualified to kind of create his own on-the-fly Upanishad called Gita. So, I mean, I do want to kind of just, rather than, so there's a little bit more in chapter 8, not about Krama Mukti, because, and I don't want to, I mean, I can give you more details if you want about Krama Mukti, but I'm not sure it's very useful. Do you want to know, like, exactly what happens or what is written in the Gita? Like, when is the, like, I think I told you last time that the exact moment of death is when your mind goes to sleep. So there is a time when you're dying when your mind just goes to sleep. Deep sleep. That's the exact moment of death. When your subtle body withdraws into the mind, the pranas withdraw into the mind, and the subtle body withdraws into the pranas. Right? That's the moment of death. And from there on, the pranas depart. The whole combination of the subtle body, which is the mind, the pranas, and the senses, that along with a little bit of the anu, an atom, so to say, of the physical body also goes along. That whole combination becomes it's like a capsule that departs. It departs from your heart to some opening in your body. That's the internal journey. And then from there, it departs to the next world. That's the external journey. That's what the Upanishads say. And they say that the exact moment of death is when, just before the internal journey, at that exact moment of death is when the mind goes to sleep. So really, death is sleep. And the mind is not aware of all this journey that is happening because it's sleeping. And then it goes through the internal journey and the external journey. That's death. So, so basically what it means is that you've shed at that moment of sleep, the mind has shed the existing physical body. Typically, when your mind goes to sleep, which happens every night, a part of it is awake. A little bit of association remains between the mind and the physical body. That's why if you shake anybody up who's deep sleep, wakes up, even when you are unconscious, some association remains. And the mind wakes back into this body. But at death, that is completely gone. The association now at death is not with the complete physical body, but with a anu, with a small molecule or an atom of the physical body. That's what the association is with. The subtle body, the sense organs have been completely withdrawn and encapsulated into this small capsule. So everything is this capsule which has gone to sleep. And then this capsule is traveled. Then they describe, different devtas who carry you from stage to stage. So this journey is propelled by the devtas. So the internal journey is overseen by one devta, then external journey is broken into various parts and different devtas oversee, and this is all in the Gita. They describe the Uttarayan, the journey of the higher journey, and the Dakshinayan, the lower journey. The lower journey is also called the Krishna Gati. The Uttarayan is also called the Shukla Gati. Ayan means journey. And yesterday I was hearing something. Ramayan is the journey of Ram. That's why it's called Ramayan. The journey, the travels of Ram. So similarly, Uttarayan and Dakshinayan. Okay. So other than that, in chapter 8, the other thing which the chapter 8 says, Bhagavan says, is that your travel is decided by your last thought. Which, a lot of people question this. They said, if it's decided by your life, not by your last thought. But what Vedanta clarifies, or Krishna Bhagavan clarifies, is that your last thought is actually not in your control. You can't say that I will lead one life, but in the end I will remember God. I will be upasana, because you can't. In the end, basically your mind has lost the will. As it is, as we get older, our will becomes lower and lower, smaller. But by the time you're dying, your will is gone. Then your mind, whatever is in the mind, whatever has been the subconscious or the collection of different things that the journey of your mind, they take over. And what you think is no longer, right now, you can control your thoughts. You can do meditation. At the time of death, the thoughts are what they are. They're controlled by your experience and by what you've been doing all your life. So all of that culminates into your last thought, so to say. And that is what propels you on either the Uttarayan or Dakshinayan or, whatever journey you have to take. That's the other thing which they said. So they said, don't wait to do good things. Do the good things now. Do the right things now. Just looking at my deck. Then they also, in this chapter, they also talk about upasana, which is the whole basis for the Shukla Gati. So the one who's done a lot of Ishwar upasana is the one who goes to Shukla Gati. So as I mentioned to you, the two things, Antakarna Shuddhi and Antakarna Naishchalya. Antakarna Shuddhi comes from Karam Yoga. Antakarna Naishchalya comes from meditation, from upasana. That means the ability to focus your mind. So knowledge of any sort requires the ability to focus. If your mind is scattered and going all over, it won't focus. It won't get knowledge. So the one purpose of upasana is to give this stability to your mind. And so those who've done both, those who've done Karam Yoga, that means done the right things, who've done the necessary upasana, have a mind which is completely ready for knowledge, those are the ones who go to Brahmalok. That's what they were trying to say. So this chapter talks about the importance of upasana, the importance of meditation, to bring focus to your mind. And it talks about a very specific meditation. You could have different kinds of meditation. But the meditation that this is talking about is meditation on yourself as Ishwar. Not meditation in order to get some phala, not meditation to say, I want to do this meditation, and that will give me some special powers through which I will achieve this end. This is meditation just purely for the purpose of, asking God, give me the knowledge, give me the strength I need to get this knowledge. So try to meditate on what Vedanta has taught you, that, everything, Ishwar is everywhere. Every little thing around us, which we see, is Ishwar. And Gita describes this in a little bit more detail. In fact, actually, chapter 11, Bhagwan Krishna, the whole chapter is dedicated to this, on how I, Bhagwan Krishna, he's saying, everything that you see in this world is me. Look at it as me. And that sort of meditation is what is described. So see God in everything. So that's sort of chapter 8. Most of the important things of chapter 8. Okay. Any questions or anything you want to chat about? Next time it'll be useful, I think, to go through just quick summary of what were the points in chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, just to remind ourselves how Gita is unfolding so far. That'll be interesting to do. We'll do that. And what's coming in the future.
Yeah.
Finish?
Yeah. Anything? Atul, come on. We got 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
What are you gonna ask?
Whatever, I'm okay. I mean, I'm not in any rush if you want longer, but I think Sanjay and Mukta are probably half asleep.
Okay.
Anna?
Yeah. Quite sleepy.
Quite sleepy. So we call it a night then?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Atul?
Yeah, I think let's call it a night.
Okay. All right. So we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye.
Good night.